by Caracris is 6 p.m. and this is CBX Business News. The business news headlines are brought to you by CBX Wealth Management, making more possible. New trade opportunities, digital payments, and big oil earnings. Good evening and welcome to CBX Business News for Tuesday, August 4, 2026. I am Rashel Moncrieffe. Thanks for joining us. Coming up, Ghana's President John Dramani Mahama pushes to open the African Continental Free Trade Area to Jamaica and the wider Caribbean. Also ahead, Grace Kennedy secures approval to expand payment services in Trinidad and Tobago. And later, Trump criticizes record oil company profits, saying consumers should benefit through lower fuel prices. Stay with us as we unpack these stories and more right after the break.
I started as a rebellious young man, terribly rebellious. I was a dropout at school, never went to college, and just amazing that I was able to develop in the operation and eventually lead the operation. So if there's anything that I think in my business life that has been just a reward, is our two sons.
Wealth is not simply counted in dollars or cents, but in the time we spend with love, in love, giving love. Wealth is not simply a means to an end. It is the means to live out loud. Wealth is more than money. It's about family, the memories you create, the legacy you leave behind, and your ability to enjoy life in the moment. It's also about seeing the CBX possibilities and seizing investment opportunities to achieve the future you want and deserve. Which is why CBX Wealth will focus on your investments so you can experience more. Because true wealth is truly more. To start investing today, call 876-926-7767.
The local news is brought to you by Derrimon Trading, better from the start. The Development Bank of Jamaica, facilitating economic growth and development. Caribbean Flavors and Fragrances, tease the senses, and Pulse Investments. Welcome back to CBX Business News. We begin with details from the state visit to Jamaica by the President of Ghana. Jamaica could gain greater access to Africa's rapidly growing market under a proposal being championed by President of Ghana, His Excellency President John Dramani Mahama. Speaking during his state visit to Jamaica on Monday, Mahama says he will push to include the Caribbean in the African Continental Free Trade Area when Ghana assumes the chairmanship of the African Union next year. Mahama says the proposal could create new opportunities for Caribbean exporters, manufacturers, and investors by giving them access to one of the world's largest free trade blocs. He says expanding the agreement to include the Caribbean would strengthen economic ties between Africa and the wider region.
Said that one of the things that I would champion when I become AU chair next year, Ghana is assuming the chair of the African Union next year, is to expand the remit of the African Continental Free Trade Area to include the Caribbean. We've set up the African Continental Free Trade Area that allows us to export goods duty-free and tariff-free into each other's markets. That's a 1.4 billion population market, and that also is a 1.3 trillion GDP economy. And so we can plug the Caribbean in so that we can exchange goods between Africa and the Caribbean duty-free, tariff-free. And so that's one of the proposals that I'll take up in my chairmanship.
Mahama says opening the door to the free trade area will allow businesses in Jamaica and across the Caribbean to benefit from a streamlined trading system designed to make it easier to access African markets.
The way the African Continental Free Trade Area works is that we harmonize our standards, and once you get approval from your standards authority that your product is of the standard that you can export, then they put you on a register, and those, if you go on, you can see which commodities qualify. They can be electrical cables, they can be transformers, they can be iron and steel products, they can be processed food products. I mean, there's so many pharmaceutical products. And so once you go in there and you decide to trade, you go on the platform. It will get you in touch with the producer in whichever country. We're now setting up the platform so that we can do settlements in our own currencies. And once that is done, it will make it easier because we don't need to exchange our currencies into somebody else's currency before we buy tea from Kenya, or Morocco buys mangoes from Ghana. We'll just use our own currencies to pay for, and the settlement will be done digitally.
That was President of Ghana, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. At the same time, Jamaica and Ghana are looking to expand commercial ties through stronger air and maritime connectivity as they seek to boost trade, tourism, and investment between the Caribbean and West Africa. Direct flights between Accra and Montego Bay remain a proposal, but both governments say they are pursuing a broader strategy to strengthen transport, logistics, and access to new markets. Speaking during President Mahama's state visit to Jamaica, Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness says the initiative forms part of a broader effort to position Jamaica as a gateway to Africa. He says recent business missions are already generating opportunities in sectors including logistics, tourism, hospitality, ICT, fintech, agribusiness, and the creative industries.
I'm particularly pleased of the discussions as it relates to air services agreements, the expansion of tourism, and indeed I'm hopeful that in the very near future we could see direct flights from Accra to Montego Bay. In addition, as Jamaica seeks to strengthen its commercial and investment ties with Ghana as part of a broader engagement with continental Africa, the Virtual Investment and New Market Ministerial Business Mission, which was held last month, would have connected many Jamaican companies and companies in Ghana. And we are seeing results already in areas of logistics, tourism, hospitality, agro-processing, ICT, fintech, and the creative industries.
While direct flights remain under consideration, Holness says Jamaica and Ghana are also looking to strengthen maritime connectivity by linking the port of Kingston with Ghana's growing logistics network. He says the move could create more efficient trade routes and give exporters and investors better access to markets across Africa and the Caribbean.
We are happy that you will also be visiting our port, the Port of Kingston, in the same way as Ghana is expanding your own ports and logistic operations to become the gateway for West Africa, Jamaica is also expanding our ports and logistics operation to be the gateway of the Caribbean and Latin America. By potentially connecting our ports, we could give exporters and investors on both sides of the Atlantic a more efficient route to new markets. We can make it easier for our Ghanaian exporter to reach the Caribbean and the Americas, and easier for a Jamaican exporter to reach Africa, particularly in the context of the African Continental Free Trade Area.
That was Jamaica's Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness. Scotiabank Jamaica customers can now send international wire transfers through Scotia Online and the Scotia mobile banking app, eliminating the need to visit a branch. The new service allows individual customers to send money overseas directly from their local deposit accounts. Customers can also make same currency transfers from accounts denominated in US and Canadian dollars, as well as euros and British pounds. The bank says transfers will be processed through the SWIFT network using the recipient bank's SWIFT code. Customers may initiate multiple transfers subject to their established daily, weekly, and monthly transaction limits. Customers enrolled in Scotia Online or the Scotia mobile banking app can access the service by selecting the transfer option and following the on-screen instructions. Scotiabank has not disclosed the fees or processing times for the new service. And finally, Iron Rock Insurance Company has returned to profit in the second quarter of 2026, reporting a pre-tax profit of 21.7 million Jamaican dollars compared with a pre-tax loss of 23.6 million in the corresponding period last year. The company says the turnaround was driven by improved underwriting performance, stronger investment returns, and disciplined expense management. Insurance revenue rose 7% to 577.8 million Jamaican dollars, while insurance service expenses declined 5% to $178.6 million. As a result, the company recorded a positive insurance service result of $17.5 million compared with a loss of $2.8 million a year earlier. Investment returns also strengthened, rising 77% to 48.3 million Jamaican dollars, while other operating expenses increased 4% to 53.8 million. We move now to the latest updates from the JSE equities. In Tuesday's trading session, the JSE market activity resulted in the trading of 115 stocks, of which 44 advanced, 48 declined, and 23 traded firm. Leading the winners are Kingston Wharves, Margaritaville Turks USD, Trans-Jamaican Highway 8%, and ISP Finance Services. While leading the losers are Cygnus Real Estate Financial JMD, Main Event Entertainment Group, G West Corporation Ordinary Shares, and Cargo Handlers. The main index advanced by 1,819.07 points to close at 375,103.68 points. The junior market index declined by 51.40 points to close at 2,886.41 points. It's time for the Market Education feature, brought to you by CariCris, Regional Ratings, Global Standards. In today's Market Education feature, we will be talking about yield maintenance. Yield maintenance is a type of repayment penalty that requires borrowers to compensate lenders if they pay off a loan before its maturity date. Its purpose is to protect lenders and investors by ensuring they receive the expected return they would have earned if the loan had remained in place for the full term. Yield maintenance is commonly used in the commercial mortgage market, where early loan repayment can reduce anticipated investment income. That was the Market Education feature, brought to you by CariCris, regional ratings, global standards. And that's it for the local news segment. Please stay with us. The regional news is up next. Local news is brought to you by Derrimon Trading, better from the start. The Development Bank of Jamaica, facilitating economic growth and development. Caribbean Flavors and Fragrances, tease the senses, and Pulse Investments.
It's feeling so good right now.
This project marks the celebration of our 30th Hall of Fame and aims to highlight the achievements, challenges, and invaluable lessons of those who have shaped and are shaping the future of our economy. Our aim is to celebrate the voices and stories of 30 remarkable leaders in Jamaica's private sector. Join us as we explore these narratives of resilience, leadership, and vision.
Welcome back. And now for the regional business news. Grace Kennedy Trinidad and Tobago has received approval to broaden its regulated payment operations in the Twin Island Republic. The Central Bank of Trinidad and Tobago officially registered the company as a payment service provider on August 1st, clearing the way for it to offer an expanded range of services. Grace Kennedy already operates in Trinidad and Tobago as a licensed bureau de change and serves as the exclusive local agent for Western Union money transfer services. The expanded authorization gives the Jamaican headquartered group a larger presence in Trinidad and Tobago's evolving payments industry. It also comes as regional financial companies increase investment in digital and non-bank payment channels to serve consumers more efficiently. Prime Minister of Barbados, Mia Amor Motley, is underscoring the importance of culture and entertainment to the country's economy as the island concludes its 2026 crop over season. Thousands of residents and visitors participated in the festival, supporting activities across accommodation, transportation, food, entertainment, and retail.
We always say it's more than a carnival, and the truth is it is an opportunity for Bajans locally and Bajans and others from overseas to come together, to relax, to free up, because in the middle of the year you need a little pause to be able to come and go again, and this is what Crop Over offers many people. We continue to build and evolve, and as you can see, people continue to have a great time. So if you haven't come yet, blame yourself, you're missing a great thing.
The Prime Minister's comments reinforce the government's position that Barbados's festivals must be treated as productive economic assets and not simply as annual celebrations. Crop Over provides earning opportunities for performers, designers, vendors, event producers, technicians, and other small businesses across the creative economy. With international visitors traveling specifically for the festival, Crop Over also strengthens Barbados's tourism offering beyond its traditional sun and sea product. The wider objective is to convert the festival's global visibility into sustained business opportunities for Barbadian creatives, entrepreneurs, and cultural brands. Guyana could now receive a larger share of earnings from the Stabroek block after ExxonMobil and its partners recovered the approximately $55 billion invested in developing the offshore operation. The recovery milestone was reportedly achieved about 2 years earlier than initially anticipated. Under the production sharing agreement, the consortium was permitted to use up to 75% of petroleum output to recover eligible development costs. With those initial costs recovered, a small share of production will be allocated to cost recovery, potentially increasing the volume available for profit sharing with Guyana. The development comes as the International Monetary Fund reports that Guyana's economy remains one of the world's fastest growing. Real gross domestic product expanded by more than 19% in 2025, while oil production surpassed 900,000 barrels per day and remained near the level during the first half of 2026. It's now time for news from the Trinidad and Tobago Stock Exchange. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 22 securities, of which 5 advanced, 7 declined, and 10 traded firm. Today's winners are Point Lisas Industrial Port Development Corporation, the West Indian Tobacco Company, National Flour Mills, and Massey Holdings, while leading the losers are First Citizens Group Financial Holdings, National Enterprises, Angostura Holdings, and Trinidad and Tobago NGL. Trading activity resulted in the following movements. The All TNT Index declined by 6.43 points to close at 1,431.14. The Composite Index declined by 3.51 points to close at 1,005.82. The Cross-Listed Index declined by 0.05 points to close at 77.17. The SME Index remained at 75.70. And we take a short break, but please do stay with us. The international news segment is up next. Welcome back. In international news, President Donald Trump earlier today criticized the record quarterly profits reported by major U.S. oil companies, saying they are earning excessive profits at the expense of consumers and should reduce fuel prices. Responding to a question about strong earnings from leading energy producers, Trump says companies such as Exxon and Chevron were making too much money because of higher oil prices. Trump, who has consistently described himself as a supporter of free enterprise, acknowledged that his criticism was unusual, but argued that the industry's recent earnings had exceeded reasonable levels.
They're making too much money, okay? Based on a shortage, they're making too much money. I don't like it. And I should be the last one to say, because I'm a big free enterprise guy, nobody bigger. And, you know, you're going to see oil, when we're finished with Iran, you're going to see the prices drop through the floor. But they made too much money, too much money. Chevron, too much money. ExxonMobil, too much money.
Trump also pointed to one unnamed company that he says had increased its profits 12-fold compared with the previous year, arguing that such gains should be shared with consumers through lower gasoline prices.
When you look at one company where they made 12 times what they made the year before, they got to give some of that back to the public. And they better cut the retail price, the consumer price. Too much money. You surprised I'm saying it? I'll say it loud and clear. I'm not happy about it. Go ahead.
That was U.S. President Donald Trump. Honduras has become the 123rd United Nations member state to pay its regular budget contribution in full for 2026, according to an announcement made during the UN's daily press briefing on Tuesday. Deputy spokesperson for the Secretary General, Farhan Haq, thanked the government of Honduras for completing its assessed contribution, noting that the payment strengthens the organization's ability to carry out its global operations and mandated activities.
If you give up, the answer is, in fact, Honduras. We say thank you to our friends in Tegucigalpa for their full payment to the regular budget. Honduras's payment brings the number of fully paid up member states to 123.
That was Deputy Spokesperson for the Secretary General, Farhan Haq. The announcement came as part of the UN's regular budget update, where officials recognize member states that have fulfilled their financial obligations. UK 10-year gilt yields declined toward 4.9%, reaching their lowest level since July 10, as falling oil prices boosted investor sentiment amid growing optimism that the United States and Iran could reach an agreement to end their conflict and reopen the Strait of Hormuz. Qatar says mediators were making progress in the negotiations, while U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent indicated that a deal could be finalized as early as Tuesday or Wednesday. At the same time, last week's Bank of England policy meeting reinforced expectations that policymakers are not in a hurry to tighten monetary policy. Markets further scaled back expectations for interest rate hikes in 2026 after the BOE voted 6-3 to leave interest rates unchanged. Governor Andrew Bailey also signaled a cautious approach, noting that the disinflation process remains on track and suggesting there is little urgency for additional policy tightening. And that's it for the international segment of the newscast. The news recap is coming up on the other side of the break.
Are so much book you need for high school?
I'll show you how to make sure you have all the money for my books and even some extra. It's called budgeting, Dad. Making a budget is the most important thing you can do to track your money. It keeps a record of how much you make, how much you spend, where you spend it, and most importantly, how much you can save. Write down all your income, write down all your expenses, see where you can cut down and allot more money to more important things, like saving.
And now to recap our top stories. In the local news, Ghana seeks Africa free trade access for Jamaica and the wider Caribbean. Regionally, Grace Kennedy expands payment services in Trinidad and Tobago. And internationally, Trump criticizes record oil company profits. Those were the stories making today's CBX Evening News. On behalf of the entire production team, I'm Rashel Moncrieffe. Thanks for watching CBX, your region, your business, your source.